Queen. He is the star, Richard Bazzi from Schultz Ford at schultzford.com. I am Bubba from 100.7 Star. And on with us today is a star in a way that you probably will be surprised by because you have heard her voice more times than you can even imagine, but you probably have never, ever, ever heard her name. It is Susan Bennett. Welcome to Car Stars and everything in between.
Thank you very much.
All right, Richard, take it away.
I really don't even know where to begin with this.
Well, start by saying, how does everybody know your voice?
Well, they know my voice because I am the original voice of Siri.
Oh, come on. Is that true? Susan.
Yes.
I need to hear you talk. I want to hear. Siri, what is the temperature in Pittsburgh today?
I have no idea. And I don't really care.
That's even better.
Where does one, I mean, it's funny because we had a radio show earlier this morning and it was like, you're the most famous person in America that nobody knows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, I guess.
Well, how did this all happen? So this is, Susan, you are Siri, right?
The original Siri. Yeah.
The original Siri. So is there
she doesn't
a new
sound like me anymore. No.
She doesn't.
No. They traded me in for a younger model.
Wow. So is the current Siri a real human or is the current Siri AI?
I have no idea. I think the last time I heard Siri, I think it was a real person, but it's getting harder and harder to tell.
But yeah. I've also read things that, how did you get the job of being Siri to begin with?
I don't know, because I don't know who chose my voice. I know that I did some recordings starting back in 2005 that were called IVR or text-to-speech recordings. And the sentences and phrases that I had to read were nonsensical because they were created just to get sound. They had to get all of the sound combinations in the language. Then they would go in and extract sounds, reform them, and that is what became Siri. It also became a lot of other things because I hear my voice everywhere.
Wait a second. Time out. I get 3.5. I'm taking one right now. So one of the questions that one of our listeners gave us this morning was, did you have to say basically every word in the dictionary? And you're saying that's not the case.
No. I read crazy sentences. Here's a couple of samples. Cow hoist in the tub hut today. What? Say schist fresh issue today. So what they were trying to do was get all the sounds in the language. Nothing to do with words, just sounds. And, vowels, consonants, diphthongs. And then they would go in and extract these sounds and then reform them into new words. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's called concatenation. There's your new word for the day.
Wait again. What is it?
Concatenation. And it means linking things together. So
wow, that's a process I've never heard. Is it used in more than just the application it's used with you? What else is?
The only time I've ever heard it was in this reference. Yeah.
It's so crazy. So because when I talk to you now, I'm seeing a visual and I'm not hearing Siri, and I want to hear Siri.
Yeah. Well, the Siri voice was pitched a little bit lower, and it was manipulated to sound a certain way, after the recordings were done. So.
Which, by the way, was another question one of our Bubba Show family members asked, was whether they altered your voice at all or if it was the natural cadence of your speech.
I think they did alter it a bit, although I have no idea. I mean, I wasn't involved. They just kind of took my voice.
which brings me to another question.
Yes.
I have read, and I don't know where or if it's accurate or not, and I don't want to pry into your financial affairs, but that you did not get paid 1 cent for being Siri.
I did not get paid. I got paid to do the recordings, but I was not paid for being on millions and millions of iPhones. And Apple to this day has not recognized me. I have not heard word one from Apple.
I don't know how that works. How in
Well,
heaven?
I think they wanted the voice to be, they didn't want people to associate a face with the voice because they wanted everyone using Siri to imagine their own Siri, And so I get that.
Did you ever use your own voice? Did you ever utilize Siri when it was your voice that was actually Siri?
No, I don't talk to her.
Well, I'm glad you don't, because sometimes she tells me things I don't want to know.
Oh, yeah. She'll do that.
Oh my, I just find that amazing that Apple has never acknowledged you, ever. And I just find that
Why would they? Why would they?
it's just insane. Bubba, what do you think of that?
So you made a mention. I think it's ridiculous, by the way. I mean, you were the voice of Siri, but you just made reference to something else. You said that you hear your voice everywhere. Where else have they used your voice outside of Siri, as if that's not enough?
Well, sometimes I heard it on a commercial one time, and I told my agent about it, and they actually got me paid. But see, what happened was when I did these recordings, it was for a company called Scansoft, which became Nuance. And this is the company, I think Apple actually bought them because they used Nuance voices for all of their different devices. And, I don't really know for sure any of this stuff, except for the fact that I was just paid for the original recordings. And then whatever happened to my voice after people bought the voice from Nuance, I have no control over that. So sometimes I always tell my friends, I said, if you ever hear my voice, let me know. I'll call my agent and he'll see if he can get me paid.
Oh, wow.
I mean, honestly, I would think that something like this should be something that can be changed through your SAG-AFTRA affiliation and the new contract.
Yeah, the SAG-AFTRA had no power there. I talked to them about it. There was nothing they could do.
So approximately how long was the voice session and/or sessions that turned into all of this?
Okay, the original recordings were done in July of 2005, 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. And then I think the total was about 4 months, because the initial recordings, served as the basis for the voice. And then the subsequent recordings I would read things like street addresses and things like that.
Really? So this was a full-time job for about half of a year?
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, honestly, the vision to do that. I mean, I think it was incredible vision to be able to create Siri like it was. But did you ever approach Apple?
No, I think my agent might have, but nothing ever came of it.
I'm thinking we should take a PR campaign and start to really make waves for Susan and get
attention. Well, it's a little after the fact because Siri came out in 2011, so we're a little late.
So how long were you the voice of Siri? How long did they utilize your voice?
I'm not sure. I think it was 2 or 3 years. It's been changed a few times. And the first time I heard the difference in the voice, I think they may have just manipulated my voice. But then subsequently, I think after I, revealed myself as the voice of Siri, they didn't want me associated with Siri. So they changed the voice.
I see how that went.
Yeah. By the way,
they wanted the voice to remain anonymous. Yeah.
If you're just tuning in, this is Cars, Stars, and Everything in Between. This is Susan Bennett. She is the original voice of Siri, and she never got paid. And when we come back, we'll follow up because I got to figure out how this vocal training all occurred. Beautiful. All right. I'm just going to save this, and we'll come back for break number 2.
Okay.
This is awesome. This is great. And here we go. 100.1 FM, AM 1020 KDK. This is Cars, Stars, and Everything in Between. He is the star, Richard Bazzi, from Schultz Ford at schultzford.com. I am Bubba from 100.7 Star. And our star with us today is Susan Bennett, the original voice of Siri, which is just amazing. I still can't get over the fact that, I mean, you were paid for your vocal sessions, but you were paid zero residuals from Apple for the continued use of your voice over the first several years, correct?
Correct.
So there was a payment, it just wasn't from Apple ever.
No, because the actual recordings weren't done through Apple. They were done through another company.
And you started as a singer. So help us understand the transition from being a singer to a voice career, which, by the way, there are a lot of people that make a lot of money with a voice career that isn't singing.
Yep. Yeah. Well, actually, I can tell you exactly when it happened. It was back in, I think it was the late 70s. I was 2. And I was working at a studio called Doppler in Atlanta, and I did a lot of jingle singing for them. And so I had been involved in a jingle recording, and where there were several other singers. And then the voice actor didn't show up to read the copy for the spot. So the owner of the studio at the time, Pete Caldwell, said, "Susan, you don't have an accent. Come over here and read this." And I went, "Oh, ding, ding, ding. I can do that." And so that was my first voiceover, and they used it. And so that was just the beginning. So I got, I took some voice classes, and I made a tape in those days, got an agent, and that was that. Yeah.
Susan, when you mentioned you put so much time and effort into repeating these phrases, and like 6 months of a full-time job, did you have any idea what you were there doing and creating?
No, not really. I knew that I was doing, I actually thought I was doing messaging, doing messaging work, because that's the company that I worked for does messaging. And so I thought, well, this is just a new way of doing messaging. And then it turned out to be, probably the basis for AI.
Well, I'm thinking that. I'm thinking that. But I mean, I can't imagine going to work every day for 6 months just repeating and uttering nonsense.
Well, no, it wasn't 6 months. It was more like 4 months. And all I had to do was just get in my stay in my jammies and go in my vocal booth and record. So it was not that big a deal. When my voice first came out and I realized that it was being utilized so much and without pay, I was very upset. And then I thought, well, you know what? This could be a life lesson for me, because, I kind of missed some things along the way. I didn't question exactly what I was doing, so it wasn't entirely someone else's fault. And I thought, I can either be upset about this and just feel bad, or I could try to spin it to my own advantage, which I did. And that's when I decided to reveal myself as the voice of Siri. And it opened up a whole new career for me, because I did a lot of, radio and TV interviews and things like that. And I realized I could get a whole new career out of it. And I started to do speaker events, and I still do that. And so that was kind of cool, because everybody's fascinated by the backstory.
Oh, yeah.
So let me ask you this. Apple's never acknowledged it. Is there any chance at all that voice of Siri wasn't you?
Not unless I am deaf.
Okay, but
it's my voice.
There's no chance
there's no chance. Now, this was before, when Siri first came out, the AI thing wasn't as, prevalent as it is today. So
yeah, it's very rudimentary. So outside of being the voice of Siri, is there any other voice work that you've done that we may know, whether it be TV commercials or cartoons or the more traditional voice work jobs?
I've done some commercials, not that many national commercials, but most of the work that I've done is sort of background stuff.
Really? What do you mean by that?
Well, my voice used in a way where you wouldn't know how that it was mine, or the person wasn't the important part. It was just what I was saying with my voice. So, yeah, people do make a lot of money doing that. Voice actors and even a lot of celebrities are doing voice work too.
Do you have, Susan? Do you have a TikTok page by chance? Because there are a lot of vocal actors and a lot of people that do voice work that have TikTok pages that are exploding and they're monetizing that. Do you have one?
Well, I signed up with TikTok recently. You have to understand that, I didn't grow up with all this stuff. This is new to me. And I'm kind of an introvert, basically, myself. So I'm not all of that social person. I'm trying to get better at it. Let's put it that way.
Well, that's a great part of doing radio and voiceover work. You don't really have to be visible and out front like that.
That's why I said today, is this going to be on video? Oh dear, I have to put makeup on. Okay.
I say that all the time. It doesn't work. But it's just, I just find it fascinating. I just can't get past the point that Apple doesn't recognize you. I want to take this on a personal mission to make sure Apple recognizes you. Honestly, I just can't even believe it. And no money. Oh,
yeah.
So you go and do you market yourself as the voice of Siri?
Sort of, yeah. I work through an agency in Los Angeles called Vox Inc. And they are mostly a voiceover agency, but they've kind of stepped out of their comfort zone to help me, book speaker events and things like that. But anybody who wants to hear the whole story of Siri, and it's pretty fascinating, and about voiceover work in general, hire me. I am for hire. Check out Vox Inc. and ask for Wes Stevens or Tom Lawless.
So, Susan, you talk about going out and doing these speaker events. Right. So give somebody an idea of like, who do you speak to? What do you speak about? What is the content and who is it appropriate for?
What is a speaker event? Yeah.
Well, anyone that like have conferences or different things like that, people have guest speakers. And so that's what I do. And I tell them about, how the recordings were done, and I talk about the voiceover business a little bit, and I do a few different voices because I can do stuff other than just Siri.
Oh, I didn't know that. So you do.
Yeah, see?
So you've never done cartoons or animation?
No, I would love to have done animation, but I think all of the animation, so much of it's done in Los Angeles. And there's a group of just very, very talented people that do a lot of that work.
The biggest market right now for voice work is video games. Has anybody approached you about doing any video game voice work?
Not so far.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
That is a completely untapped market for you, Susan. Richard, you should do some voice work for video games.
I've thought about it. What would mine be?
I literally have no idea.
I could be the male voice of Siri.
I wonder, have they ever done a male voice of Siri, or is Siri always been?
There are a lot of different. You can choose your voice now.
Yes,
really. You can choose the voice.
Yes.
I don't know if this would make you mad or not, but I am a diehard Android person. Just so you know, Susan.
I just don't care. You're welcome to your own choices.
Oh, that's great. I care.
Richard's been trying to convert me.
I iPhone shame him all the time.
Yeah. Well, Susan, could you give everybody all the information, how if they do want to get in touch with you, how they can find you, if they are interested in booking the original voice of Siri, how can they find you?
Well, it's very easy to find me. You just Google voice of Siri. But if you would like to hire me, which I would love that, contact the people at Vox Inc. in Los Angeles, and talk to Wes Stevens.
I love it. Susan Bennett, the original voice of Siri. Thank you for being on Cars, Stars, and everything in between.
Such a great honor and pleasure. Thank you, Susan.